Hi there, tarot lovers. So, the card of the day today is the reversed King of Swords. So, well, of all the masculine kings, this is the guy who's the most intellectual, the most in his head, the most rational. This is the king that sits on the throne of air, which is very much related to our thinking and our thoughts, our masculine mind. Uh, the sword represents a sort of truth in some way, so it's an intellectual truth which we relate to. It's a knowing, a knowledge that's gained from, learning and understanding and experience. There's two sides to the sword because you can use this truth for good and you can use truth for not so good. The sword is a kind of a dangerous tool at the same time as a powerful one. So it's like our mind in a way where we're very, where we can have amazingly strong intellectual gifts, and at the same time our mind can be our greatest downfall because our thoughts can create, or the belief systems that we hold inside create the strongest and most negative, destructive patterns inside of our psyche. And so while the mind is, and potentially is, a wonderful gift, it is also one of our greatest obstacles to overcome, because we are normally taught in our life, in our Western society at least, to be very head-based and to worship the intellect and worship the mind and all of its cleverness. When this king is upside down, the message that he's giving to the world is not such a great one. So don't take what I say today. This is me today, but maybe it's a question of always always questioning what we receive, what we hear, and the message we're sending out to the world, so that we can question whether we're coming from a space of truth, when we're coming from a space of heart and of honesty. This king, when he's upside down, is not so connected to his heart, and the message that he shares with the world and the truth that he projects out there onto everybody around him is not necessarily the cleanest one. It's not the most honest all the time, and the ego of this king, when the court cards are upside down, it's when the ego is really attaching to that strong nature that the card represents. And in this card specifically, it's this strong intellect and this strong rationality. So when the ego just grabs onto the intellect and starts owning it, and it becomes the most important part of our identity, then we give, we give worth to thinking, and we give power to thinking, and we give importance to thinking. So it means that we can get caught up in our heads sometimes, maybe way too much, and this king is going to overthink a lot, and this king is going to share ideas of importance that maybe aren't really important. And this is somebody who can be a little bit of a tyrant sometimes, and he can be a bit of an intellectual bully. And this is somebody who's very much stuck in this idea of having to be right all the time and to know everything. And so he's a really strong know-it-all. He's a strong-willed and focused person, but in not always the most positive way. He probably comes from a little bit of self-doubt. I can feel his self-doubt in me a lot of the time. And he won't always be as focused as he is when he's the right way up. He can be really strong and really intellectually, gifted, but it's something to be aware of, that we need to humble ourselves sometimes and recognize that just basically sometimes we're just full of shit. And it's okay to admit it. We don't have to be right all the time. And if you get a chance today, and I'm sure life will give me the opportunity today to be wrong in more ways than one, just so that I can relate to this upside down king a little bit more inside of me, it's good to admit it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's the mind is going to only ever be half true. Every thought that you can believe is only half true, because from a different perspective it's not true, and from another perspective it's not true either. And so our truths are it's a flexible reality, and the mind can be amazingly flexible and can move very quickly and adapt to different beliefs and different ideas, but it can also get really rigid and really stuck in one way of thinking and one way of doing as well, that comes from these beliefs that we have, that there is only one truth and there's only one thing to do. So if this is where you are in your life today, if you find yourself bumping into ideas and thoughts that are really not grounded in your truth, or really, causing you to trip up or causing you to have arguments and have conflict. This king is a bit of a conflicting king, and he's maybe just over judgmental and desperate to dive into an argument on one level or another, and to just be in conflict with other people. He's just so desperate to be right, because he's coming from an insecurity of probably not feeling that right. And if this is you, and if this is somebody around you, if it's coming into your life, life will always reflect to us who we are. So whether this is a person that's very obvious for you, who's like over intellectual, over rational, a little bit cold, not very heart-centered, not empathic at all, lost a little bit of compassion for other people, then recognize this part of you, because people come into our lives to mirror to us a lot of who we are. And even if this is a tyrant and a little bit of a gaslighting bully and somebody who's trying to mentally manipulate people around him, we sometimes do this to ourselves, and it's more important to recognize him inside of ourselves, because we have power to change that. We can't change anybody on the outside, and yet we do have this ability and this will, this strong will that the king also represents, to take that sword out and cut away any negative habits that we might have, any negative patterns, ways of thinking, and conditioned belief systems inside of ourselves. So in a way, the sword is the greatest gift to cut away the negative aspects of the sword. And this is a bit of a paradox, because the mind in itself cannot change itself, but the consciousness that we are behind our mind can change all of our mental patterns and all of our beliefs. And it's a question of really, truly honoring our capability for change and our capability for transformation. And then we can wield that sword with a little bit more integrity and with a greater deal of truth that actually is true to who we really are, and true to what we really want, and true to the knowledge that, being right is not the most important thing. Your truth is going to be a flexible reality. It's going to be something that will shift and change. Who you think you are and who you will become are going to be different realities too. So don't hold on too strongly to one idea and one belief. Do so if it serves you. Do so if it's going to motivate you and get you moving in your journey. But don't be rigid. Don't be stuck in any ideas. And don't try to hold on to being right when it's sometimes more beautiful and more wonderful to be wrong. Anyway, I hope this helps you in one way or another. Whenever you receive this reading, it's the perfect reading whenever you hear this. And if the upside down reversed king is in your life today, it's in your life to teach you a beautiful lesson, and I hope you have the open-mindedness to learn it.